All right, let's do this, man. Hey, welcome back to the Elisha's Riddle podcast, a prophetic conversation unraveling the riddle of Christ in all things. Nick Padavani, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. We just got a new trampoline at our house.
What?
So we're soaring the heavens. We're rising and shining, coming away with our beloved into the clouds.
Come on now.
You know, all that. Actually, it's not a new one. We had a tear, a little hole, and it was getting bigger and bigger. So, you know, it gets a little scary when that's happening because you don't know when it's going to be your last bounce. And so we weren't sure what to do, but Kelly went ahead and ordered the rubber, ordered the stuff to just, we kept the frame, and she just got the new rubber, and we got the, you know, the surrounding mesh. So we're excited about that. Summer's coming, and you know, got to get outside with the kids more. So yeah, dude, it's good to see you. It's good to have you back.
I know. I mean, it's been like what? It's been like a month or 3 weeks at least since
about 3 weeks, I think.
Since we recorded together.
Yeah.
We had Brian Simmons, and then I just like rode off into the sunset.
Like, peace out.
We're good now. We're good now.
Well, we had an awesome time with Mike the last 2 episodes, and yeah, he's here holding down the fort still. But dude, yeah,
shout out Mike, the unsung hero.
Yes,
I got to get on some trampolines this summer myself. So I got a cousin with a trampoline. Yeah, it's important for your spiritual walk to get on a trampoline.
Yeah.
Some water guns.
Yeah.
Some are fun.
Nerf guns. Yeah.
Nerf guns. Absolutely. So speaking of trampolines and water guns, never mind. I was trying to make some connection that's not there.
Well, hey, might be.
We want to talk about a new foundation. Yeah. A new foundation in this era of Christianity. There's reform happening. Like God is opening the eyes of people. There's been a lot of shaking and quaking. We've documented it. We've prophesied it. We've been witnesses to, you know, people having their eyes open to like what's most important in Christianity. What are we really doing as followers of Christ, as the church?
Yeah.
And so, you know, this is what we feel really called to, is to like just be a voice to help people navigate the shifts that are happening in the body of Christ. Yeah. All these leaders, you know, falling and churches going this way and that way. So yeah, just jumping back into this conversation that really we've been having for a few months now. Where do you want to start with this?
Yeah, well, I wanted to share a story from last year, a little before we started this podcast. I was at a water park with some people from church. Indoor water park. It was actually in the dead of winter. This is one of these big ones in Pennsylvania. They have these indoor water parks. Great Wolf Lodge.
Oh, love that. We got one. We got one real close. My friend Pastor Luis is at Great Wolf Lodge today.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah. So great. You know, well, we were with our family pastors. We have my good friend, Jeff Gunther, his wife, Renee, their kids, and some other people from the church. We went out there, and after all the kids were in bed, we were just having like some late night conversation. And we were talking a little bit about the move of God in the 90s. We've brought this up, you know, now on the podcast a few times about 94 and this kind of 30-year journey that the body of Christ has been on, and us coming into this new place of maturity. And we're just so excited about what God is saying with that. But this was a year ago. Jeff was talking about just interactions he's had with people that kind of grew up under, not the leaders of it, but the people that were kids and teenagers during that this revival, this amazing move of the Spirit that was hitting churches, you know, in Canada and the Northeast and all over the world in the 90s, mid 90s to late 90s. And Jeff was just being very candid as he can be about some of the state of some of these people, where they're at now, some of the young people who are impacted by this, and just how far a lot of them are from God, and how a lot of them are wounded by things that happened in the church during that season, things they experienced while people were encountering God, and there was legit miracles and beautiful things that took place. There were a bunch of people, young people, that felt very left out and or disconnected, or their parents. I was told this by one of the leaders, of that time period, that movement, that they just were always at church and they had babysitters for their kids, and they were, they just made a lot of mistakes with how things were handled. So anyway, we were just talking about this. It was very random, the conversation. People who listen to our podcast might think I talk about this all the time, but it's not. It's been a focus for us here, but it's not a normal conversation to talk about the 90s and this this whole thing. Yeah. Anyway, so the conversation ended. We get back from this trip to the water park, and a few days later we get invited. I get an invitation as a pastor, and I could bring some other leaders with me to Resting Place. And Resting Place, I brought them up a couple weeks ago. We were there again for the first time with Lou Engle, and I shared that story, and that was amazing last month. But this was a year ago. We get invited, so I go actually with. Was Jeff there, Mike? No, or was it just me and you and Manuel, our worship director at the Almond Branch? So Mike and I and Manny went, and we just have this amazing time in worship. It was this beautiful gathering, just this sense they felt to like call people to come together. And to make a long story short,
where was this at?
This was at Resting Place.
Okay, it's like a prayer church in New Jersey.
Yes, house of prayer. Yeah, a revival
Our
center.
Friend Ali.
Yes.
Who? Yeah. My pastor in California is friends with him. He's a cool guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, amazing guy. Ali, and Rich is his associate pastor there, and yeah, beautiful ministry. I talked a lot about them 2 weeks ago. It was just when I was flying solo here about the Lou Engle event. But so anyway, we went, and they had invited pastors from all over the region, and this one pastor gets up towards the end of the worship time, and he just says, "Hey, I want to actually talk about what happened in the 90s." And he had some other leaders there. These were older men who were kind of at the forefront of at least New York, New Jersey area region where this thing hit. And he said, "Look, I want to actually repent of some things where we really missed the mark, especially with young people." And I was blown away. I'm like, "Wow, this is so weird." I'm just sitting at a water park 3 days ago, and our family pastor is talking to me about, like, he wasn't a part of that move. He didn't grow up in that realm of the charismatic world, but he knew people. He had a lot of friends, and so he just was randomly bringing that up. And then here I am a few days later, and one of the main leaders of the movement is repenting. He's apologizing before people, before God, and asking for grace. He's like, God is giving us a second chance. God is so good. He said, there is another wave that's just, we feel it, just a wave of the Spirit. I like wave, by the way. I like that terminology because it just goes to show that we're always in the water. The Spirit never leaves. We're always in the ocean, right? I think like we've talked about this. Yeah. But in the ever-present, omnipresent glory of God that we're always united with, one with, never changes, there are movements. God is a person who moves and does things and has plans and purposes. So we're all feeling and sensing there is a wave, there's a cresting of his omnipresence where it's going to impact churches and society in a really tangible way. But yeah, this pastor was saying God is giving us another chance to get it right this time. And we need to have the right perspective when it comes to kids, family, and just our own ego. He was talking about just the pride that was involved and some of the control, we'll just say it, the religious spirit that was at work in the midst of a lot of good things. So after that event at Resting Place, you and I start voxing our walkie-talkie app, and we start talking. And you were watching a movie, and maybe I'll hand it back to you at this point because this is where you coincide with the story and the whole focus of this conversation.
Yeah. There's also one before I jump into Encanto, which is the movie. I did want to bring up just on the podcast that there's the year 1994 has been coming up. And this is from a previous episode where we talked about the 30-year anniversary of Toronto.
Yes.
And how there's like a whole new maturity and a whole new wave of the spirit happening.
Yeah.
So I just want to put it out there for people who follow sports that the New York Rangers, the hockey team, their team is being compared a lot to the 1994 Rangers, which is the last time they won the Stanley Cup. Last time they won the championship, and now they have a chance to do it again, exactly 30 years later. So I just want to put it out there as like a potential like prophetic confirmation that if like the New York Rangers will win the Stanley Cup in 2024, maybe it's like a confirmation of like that connection from 1994 and the Toronto blessing.
That's cool. But there's one other thing too. Me and you found out that they're making another Lion King movie, and we had no idea. They're bringing Mufasa back. And we had this whole, we did 2 episodes on this, right? Of Lion King 1 and 2, and this crazy thing where God was like speaking about the Lion King that came out in 1994. And then the second movie speaks more of like where the message in it is, where we're headed now, 30 years later, what God's going to be doing 2024 and beyond. Yeah. And then we I had no idea that the movie Mufasa is coming out. Disney is releasing it this year. And it's just crazy. It's just, there's just these little things that are pointing to like 1994 being restarted, but now with a new foundation. Yes.
Yeah, and so cool that the Mufasa movie is going to be all about Mufasa, who really is like the God character, you know, the father figure of Lion King 1 and 2, and it's going to like, it's like a call to like, let's focus on the main thing. So so that's pretty cool. 1994, and so, but the movie that I want to bring up today about a new foundation for anybody who's seen the movie Encanto.
So good.
And I got to say it with a little Spanish accent. You know, my wife, she's Mexican, so Encanto.
Come on, man. Yeah,
I mean,
abuela.
I try
in the movie.
You know, I try. I might mess around and eat a tortilla. You know, so it's a great movie. If you haven't seen Encanto, I recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. It came out in 2021. The main character, Mirabel, she is trying to find her place in the family, and everybody in the family has these really powerful gifts.
Such a prophetic message. Just pay attention to my brother here. All right. All right. Go ahead.
So everybody in the family, and this is a spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil the movie. So you might want to go watch the movie, pause the podcast, come back.
Okay.
In the movie, everybody in the family has these powerful gifts. Like one sister can lift really heavy things. One sister just like makes everything beautiful. One of the brothers can like turn into different people.
One of the aunts cooks food that heals people, so she's got a gift of healing through her hospitality.
All kinds of gifts, but Mirabel doesn't have a gift. That was like, there was like this big letdown. They have these ceremonies for every new kid in the family, and like the day that they're supposed to get their gift, and she was the one where like she went into this door to get her gift, and like she didn't get one, and the whole family was like disappointed. She was kind of like this oddball. It's like, where's your gift? Like, you know, this is so good. It's hitting me again as I talk about it. And so basically she bumps into this other family outcast named Bruno. You know, that's one of the more popular songs.
About him, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Bruno now
because
he's got a prophetic gift. Yes,
he does.
Yeah, they literally call it that.
Yeah, and he had this prophecy that Mirabel, the one without the gift, would be the one to like bring some sort of like answer to this dilemma, because Mirabel notices a crack in the foundation and a crack in the house, because they have this magical house. That's what the word Encanto means. Their house is like this magical house that like brings like healing and like blessing to the city that they live in. But there's this crack that she notices. She wears like these green glasses, so in some ways like it's like her eyes are open, like which is like what we call our publishing company, and that's like a big thing that we believe that people need their eyes opened. We need eyes to see. Right. And so Mirabel has these eyes to see that there's a crack in the house. There's a crack in the foundation.
Yeah.
And so she goes ahead and she realizes, and she basically confronts her abuela, who's like the grandma, who's like the mother figure of the house. And she realizes that Abuela is putting all this pressure on everybody in the family to like use their gifts and use their gifts and use their gifts. And but what basically comes out is like nobody actually feels good enough. Nobody actually feels like they're doing enough. Wow. And everybody feels like they're failing.
Wow.
And Mirabel confronts her Abuela on this. And basically Abuela has all this trauma and pain from when her husband died. This is like the backstory, the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And it all comes out. And basically there's this moment where Abuela looks at Mirabel and realizes that like, oh, like you're the miracle, like you're the gift. Wow. And the whole house crumbles. Like in this altercation, the whole house crumbles. And they go by the river and they come back to the house and they basically rebuild the house with this new foundation of.
They sing those words. We're building on that foundation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's the new foundation is that each person in the family is a gift in of themselves. Yeah. And they are more important than the gift of like what they do. Yes. And it's like they're able to see each other for the first time.
Yeah.
And
wow.
And Abuela finds healing and she realizes she's like been putting like these heavy burdens on the family that are just not gonna it's just not gonna hold up. Like the house is gonna crumble if it's all about performing and using our gifts and that's it. It's not gonna be enough.
Yeah.
You know, but the new foundation is like the value and the gift of each person of like and like loving each other and like and yeah, so incredible movie.
Yeah.
Incredible movie. And I feel like it's so relevant to.
Yeah. Well, I called you as you're watching that movie and to tell you about this whole thing with the pastors repenting of really missing the mark with relationships during that season, where it was more, and I'm putting words in some, I don't want to, I can't speak totally perfectly what they were trying to communicate, but they were repenting in general of, in many ways, a performance mindset where it was more about the stage, more about what was going on up front. And they missed, especially the youngest, the littlest ones that so often get missed because they're the kids. You just put them in a room and, tell Pastor Dylan to play games with them and forget about them while the adults have real church. Yeah. And, but there was more to it that they were saying, it wasn't just that. But yeah, so I had already seen the movie Encanto. You and I had talked about just the beautiful message in it like a while ago. But yeah, when I called you, you had just so happened to put it on or have it on again. It was on the TV and the timing was amazing. It was like, wow, this God is really confirming that there's a new wave. There's a cresting wave of glory that's hitting the nations of the Spirit. There's going to be fresh manifestations. There was amazing stuff that took place in the 90s and God is going to be doing new things, incredible things, but this time he's making it so clear we got to do it right. We got to do it right. And he's spoken that to us in many ways, that phrase, if you do this right, you focus on the right things, it will last. This will be something that will bear fruit for eternity. So yeah, man. So I thought, it would be cool for us to like unpack that more. Like, what is this? What is this? What is this new foundation? We've kind of already said it, but I don't know. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, well, one thing that's kind of cool is that like, so the house that I'm living in, the house that I'm doing this podcast from, like it belonged to two elders from my church named Yolanda and Alfredo, and they were a part of the church that I'm now a part of in California. We're called Home Church now. We were previously called Thrive Church. And one of like the catchphrases that became really popular when they were still alive at this church was "It's all about the people." So basically the backstory is Alfredo had some bad experiences at his previous church. He got like church hurt, and he saw like firsthand like what you're talking about. He saw like pastors put like the stage first and really just like he just watched people get like really hurt and like put to the side and like there wasn't like the love of God, Yeah. And so when he came to this new church, he recognized that like, man, like church has to be about the people. Like we have to love people. Like that's what Jesus loves the most, is people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just last year, 2023, Sister Yolanda who's my wife's aunt, my wife's great aunt. She went to be with Jesus, and they had this huge like celebration service that like 500 people came to, and like, wow. And she never once was on a stage, and she never once had a microphone in her hand, and she never once had a position, a paid position. But like 500 people came to her celebration of life service, and everyone had a story of like, Sister Yolanda, she would always ask me how I'm doing, and she would sit and talk with me, and like, and wow. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It's I don't even know if I've still fully processed it. This is over a year ago. This is about a year ago. This is May 2023. Wow. I still don't really think I've fully processed like that, the fact that I live in her house, that her and her husband built. Actually, they built this house. Like they set the foundation of this house. Wow. And we're the first people to live in it since. Their son Buddy, he owns the house, and he's letting us rent it for this time. Yeah. Wow. But I'm working at a church now, and so I have to live with this tension of like. And I was just talking to my friend Pastor Luis about this yesterday. Like, I have to live in this tension of like, we have to put on these events. Like people want to come and gather on a Sunday. Yeah. People want to come and worship, and the preacher's got to preach his word. Like, that's good. That's part of the encanto, like we need that stuff. We got to take communion. We got to worship, prophesy. We got to use our gifts, Yeah. Manny's got to use his gift of worship, in April, and Mike has to use his gifts, and all the above. But what the struggle is, like, there's so many people who don't even know their gift yet. There's so many people who aren't even at a place where they can use their gift yet, because they haven't even been loved yet. They haven't even, and come on, are we really going to put people's gifts, like, we can totally make the same mistake as Abuela in Encanto. Yeah. Like, are we really going to just try to throw people into using their gifts without like really like seeing them and loving them and valuing them, and like people are just going to feel so defined by what they do, and they're still going to have that insecurity. They're still going to not feel good enough, Mm-hmm. And so I think that's just a problem that every church has to deal with. Like, there's no way around it. Is like, it's a good problem. It's a God problem. It's a God opportunity. It's actually not a problem. It's an opportunity for us to be like Jesus, and to be like Mirabel, and to define people not by what they do, but by who they are, and by how God sees them. Yeah. And that's going to be the right foundation. So I'm blessed, because at my church, Pastor Chris, we redid our church values
I was just about to bring this up, because I was going to bring up the subject of memorial stones, because we have these memorial stones, but that doesn't have to just be literal stones. Yeah. Anyway, so go ahead, finish.
Yeah. Yeah, we redid our values, because Pastor Chris, he stepped into the role of lead pastor, and he made one of our values. I think we have 6 values. One of our values is family, and then the catchphrase is, it's all about the people. So he actually, he like memorialized that. It was always like, people knew about it, and it was always said a lot, but now it's like in our church, like value, like statements. Wow. And
it's beautiful.
And so it's awesome, but the challenge remains, like, okay, we have to like live that out.
Yeah. Right.
We have to, because there's people everywhere you look that don't know they're loved.
Yeah. And they're searching for value all the time. They're looking for affirmation. And so we live in a world where you're going to have to put on a show of some kind to like get some. Yeah. So we're dealing with this 24/7 with everybody we meet. Yeah.
Yeah. People can get lost in the system of church. People can get lost in the, in just the event planning and then we never stop to see like, oh, this is all for people. Like, this is for their healing. This is so that they can, right. It's not always easy, because we, especially as pastors or as church leaders, like, we're busy, like, we're trying to put on good events, but we have to remember like the most important thing in the midst of, doing good events and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's just hitting me again too. Last year, this time last year, we started, laying these foundation stones as a church, and Mike here, he's was a big part of that in carving stones and carving words as we were seeking the Lord. Like, what are the foundational things? And one of which being family and belonging. Kind of put those two together. That's where you put the Trinity symbol, right?
That's right.
Yeah, he put
awesome.
the Trinity symbol
with
family and belonging. But this situation that we found ourselves in resting place was while we were doing that. It was like while we were laying these foundation stones last year. So I'm encouraged. Like, I have a little bit of, like, there's sobriety to this of like, wow, this is serious. Like, God he's really serious about putting the people first and all of that. But I'm encouraged because he's confirming this all over the place, that he is building a new foundation. And we have these stones upstairs down the hall from this studio here now. We have it. So anybody who goes into the upper room that we have here, where we have classes and different things, or all of our offices, really, where a lot of the work goes on, Monday to Friday, we pass by those stones. And so I was going to bring up the it's all about the people thing, because didn't you guys put that in your house somewhere? Don't you have that phrase as well?
Right over here in the dining room where
that's
where
awesome.
We put up a sign that says it's all about the people.
Yeah,
Alfredo and Yolanda, we got that made for Christmas for my cousin who's their son who owns the house.
Right,
so we're gonna kind of leave it in this house forever, even past when we're living here. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's beautiful. So, I was just gonna say that, like, memorial stones are ultimately people to me. Like, we're the living stone. Like, Alfredo is the memorial stone. Like, his and Yolanda, like, that was, her life was a living stone that others were built on, right? So it's like, man, Lord, make me that living stone. I need to embody this. So, like, we can have our church values and put it on the wall and carve our stones, but, like, it's gotta be carved right here. And
absolutely.
And thankfully it is in Christ, right? We got Mr. Relationship 101, we got love himself inside of us. So
I love that.
He's there, but we
absolutely
have to live that out.
Yeah, he's in us, and that's what he wants to do. And as he shifts our hearts, like, we have the desire to do that. Like, I think a lot of us, we want to be the real thing. And so sometimes it's just about, like, making time for it, or making the sacrifices of, like, okay, I'm going to, one of our other values is mission. And then the catchphrase is "stop for the one," which is like the Heidi Baker phrase, right? Because oftentimes you can only love one person at a time. Yeah. I mean, you can do small groups too, but a lot of times it's stopping for that one person, that's in need.
Right.
And
wow.
But I love what you said. Like, we are the stones. I got another friend who I think this is something that I really want to, like, tell artists, like, people who want to create art. Like, I think artists get so focused on making something, and instead I want a lot of artists to know, like ultimately, like, we are the art. Like, God, most importantly, God is the artist. Like, let's, instead of being so obsessed with, like, making a song about something, like let's become the song. Like, let's be the art, and let's let God, like, let's let our life become the song, that God gets the glory from at the end of our lives. Like, I don't want to be so focused. I'm just saying this because I like to make, like, rap songs too. But I don't want to be so focused on my whole life on, like, creating something and not, like, letting God create something through my life, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that connects a little bit to, like, the stone thing, but yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. And I always think of the scripture, I forget where it is, about, I think it's in Hebrews, actually, later on in Hebrews, about the one who made all things. Like, the glory it's earlier in Hebrews. Yeah. Like, the glory of the architect is greater than the structure itself, the building itself, the maker of all things. So, and that's always, like, because, I love architecture. I love, like, building and design and everything. And I'm like, that's saying the person who made the building is greater than the building, though. Like, that building could rise 5,000 feet in the sky, and, like, it's still, like, the mind that dreamed it up, that, engaged with all the different workers and materials and everything, is still more glorious. Anyway, that just makes me think of that as well. Like,
And one other thing is, like, the Trinity, right? And that's probably why you guys put the symbol of the Trinity on your family stone, is, like, we're big on that. We're big on that. At Elisha's Riddle and in our books is like the revelation of the Trinity, that we come from a family, and that we need that reminder. I don't think we hear that enough. In the evangelical world, like sometimes we could like secretly be Jesus only people. That it's a real sect of. That's a real like heretical sect of there's some out here.
Is you talking about oneness theology?
There's some churches in the town where I live that are Jesus. They're called Jesus only churches, and they don't believe in the Trinity.
Okay,
it's weird. Like, dude, it's so weird.
Yeah.
So the point, what I'm saying is like, it's always a good reminder that like a family created us. And this is why the revelation of the Trinity is like, I think, hitting the church more and more.
Foundation. It's at the foundation. Yeah. That's why the Trinitarian theology has been so important when we talk about the last 30 years since Toronto, bringing back the knowledge of the Trinity. Yeah. It's always been orthodox, but it's not been front and center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because a family created us. A family.
Right.
God is a family of three.
Yeah.
And that's
wow. Yeah. It's almost like, just focusing just on Jesus. If you have that oneness theology or whatever, there's different names for it, but it almost breeds like a stage mentality too. It could breed like there's the one person, the one God that is the center point. I don't know. We reflect what we worship, right? So if it's a standalone God as opposed to a God who exists within an eternal relationship of love and service and grace and kindness, that's a much different reflection we're going to have on earth as we focus on that, as we teach that. So that's good. The Trinity is at the foundation. And, and hey, listen, water guns, Nerf guns, and trampolines too. I'm going to bring it back to where we started because like just having fun, like connecting with people, like I'm thinking like that's totally, and I love that about our friends Jeff and Renee at the church, and what they're focused on all the time is developing family ministry, family focus, and just having fun, living life together, and finding the value in that. And I'm all about the missional side. I've got the evangelist kind of gift burning in me, but it can become so much about this end goals and results that you miss the fun along the way, being with people and reaching people. And so I think that's another big part of it. Fun.
Yeah.
Just put that out there. Fun is part of the new foundation.
Oh yeah. I'm big on that. In my book, The Happy Trinity, like, I kind of make a case for like fun. Even the word fun is there in the scriptures within the word joy. You don't see the English word fun in the Bible, but it's there in the concept of what joy meant, in that time.
I love that. I forgot about that. I got to read that book again. It's a good one.
The disciple. There's an element of fun within the Trinity, and it's most clearly seen in Proverbs chapter 8 when the Father and the Son and the Spirit were laughing and playing together when they made the universe. And again, that's the God we come from. So it's a good value within family is to like make time to have fun together. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Would you say it's fundamental?
I would definitely say it's fundamental.
Fundamentals. Thanks, Mike.
I would definitely say it's fundamental.
Pastor Mike in the house. Come on. There we go. Fundamental. Yeah, these are core things. And I'm just, I'm thinking about our core value stones. Of course, the finished work of the cross is at the center. It's the understanding of your new identity in God as a child of God. And to me, that's like the only way to get beyond performance is like you have to know that you're good. You've been made good by the blood of the Lamb. That's and right. So we can't have any of what we're talking about without the finished work, that's without good. Christ. Yeah. So that's, to me, a big part of why there's been this whole finished work movement is because there's a wave of glory coming. There's going to be more and more people drawn to God in the days ahead, but we don't want them drawn to a religion, to a religious system that's going to put the work on them to clean themselves up. And
no, I think that's how you get people from, I think that's how the Encanto gets. I think that's the new foundation is like how do people go from being broken and hurting and we stop for the one, we love them, we see them, but how do they actually get to maturity? How do they actually get past those issues and not just always be somebody who's stuck in their brokenness? Well, the answer is they need to really, in a real way, in their own heart, discover who they are and whose they are.
Yes.
And which is like a child of God, and that they're good, and that they're righteous and perfect in his image and likeness.
Yeah.
No, there's tons of people that are still not believing that. There's like practically everyone I speak to is still struggling with like, am I a child of God or am I a child of the devil? Like there's still like the devil is still lying to so many people and still using the scriptures to torment them. And no doubt about it.
Yeah. I want to kind of maybe wrap up around this point, because this is everything. And you could have the family foundation, the fun, you could have all that, but without the knowledge that Jesus like sets you free and reveals your original blessing, the glory, the image of God in you. That's just good, eternally good, apart from what you do on the outside. It's just what he's placed in you. It's who you are. Like you could have all this other stuff in place, but it could still be a mess, Right. And Jesus is good with messes, and we need to, love people and have fun in the midst of the messes. But we don't need to stay wretched. We don't need to stay broken, and people could then, I don't know, they could make an idol out of their issues, because it's like, well, I have this family, I have these people who accept me, and that's great, and
that's good, man.
It's because they love me, but I have this going on and this going, and it's like, okay, let's also remember that Jesus sets you free from your issues. Like he gives you grace, like, and discovering who you are is how you get free from those issues in the first place. So
definitely, discovering your identity in Christ. Like what do you see when you look at yourself in the mirror? Yeah.
Yes.
Is everything, like seeing yourself through God's eyes and letting that really transform you from the inside out.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's like focus on the family. James Dobson, like he was a man. Like shout out James Dobson. Like focus on the family, But only that, without the power of the gospel, is like, it can just be another like thing that you're striving for.
I know. Yeah, I know. Even good things. So we want to like put that at the center, because all this is wonderful stuff that God is restoring, but we could make family into a work. You could make fun into a work. You could then
100%.
So it's there's a tension here. There's this mystery. So this new foundation. This new foundation starts with the fact that we have been made one with Jesus, made righteous and clean, and we're good, and we have this stuff inside of us already. It's who we are.
We're not becoming it by what we do. We are it by the declaration of God.
Yes, because I could listen.
Everything.
I could listen to a Focus on the Family episode and walk away and feel like, man, I just suck as a dad. Like I'm really not doing great as my oldest daughter enters teenage years. But man, I need to go back, even when I feel like I'm not measuring up to what family looks like, to where I'm not putting the people first, even in my busyness of, pastoring and leading and all of that. I thank God for the cross, for the truth that I can always come back to, like, okay, I'm forgiven. I'm clean before God. This is who I am. And that just renews me, and it sets my feet right back on the path. And when I start a new day, it's like, all right, I'm going to love my daughters today. I'm going to love the people in the church today, because it's who I am instead of something I'm striving towards. So I'm glad we, kind of
absolutely
brought that final core point here.
It's essential. People still need that desperately.
Yes.
Desperately. Barely anybody's believing that. It's
changing. The tide is turning. The tide is turning.
And I probably didn't need to bring Dr. James into it, but I was trying to think of a way to. I wanted to make some focus on the family joke earlier. I couldn't land it. I threw him in there.
That's all right.
Shout out Dr. James. He's the man.
We love you.
His mansion in heaven is definitely way bigger than mine. Like no doubt about it.
Man,
who else's mansion is gonna be bigger than ours in heaven? Definitely, Toby Mac for sure. Oh my God, Toby Mac's mansion in heaven is gonna be insane.
Mufasa too. He'll have a pretty big one.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Dude, I love it, man. This is good. Thanks for just always being able to wrestle through these things and church life and share your heart and just share the beautiful story also of your wife's great aunt and what's going on over in California. It's beautiful. So God is good, man. He's leading us forward into this. I can't say it enough. Like, there is a wave of glory that's rising, and he's going to carry us forward into beautiful places. So it's good.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I'm riding the wave.
All right, man.
All right, brother. I will see you next week. We shall be back. Blessings to all of our listeners. Check out the new Elisha's Riddle magazine.
Yes.
We have new passages from our books being released. Hop on the Zoom call, become a subscriber. We're doing a once a month Zoom call where we take communion, and we get prophetic and have a good time in God's presence together. Yeah. If you're looking for some community, that's definitely like the next step, like past the podcast, is like get on the Zoom call.
That's good. Yeah.
Become a subscriber, get on the Zoom call. Yeah.
Yeah. Elisha'sRiddle.com. So cool. All right, Dylan. Talk to you soon.